Hello, my friend. I am Norfmare. Yo, yo. Okay, so today I want to tell you about a dream I had 3.5 years ago, just before my daughter was born. I remember way back then drawing this exact sketch, and I wanted to animate drawings like these and tell my story on YouTube, essentially. Now, there were many problems back then, like, for one thing, how do you, on your own, create a whole bunch of hand-drawn artwork to animate and do everything by yourself while still being able to put out stuff consistently? So this led me to an idea, because I usually do line art like this, and that idea was to have an orange background, black fillings, and white outlines. This would give me a unique look while still keeping it simple enough that I was able to actually produce large quantities consistently. Problem was, though, even this was fucking hard. Excruciatingly hard back then. If you wanted to make like videos that last 10 minutes, a lot of work. Fast forward to today. Now this is completely possible. This exact image was made using Flux 2 Klein 4B. That is the smallest Flux 2 model, and I just fed it my drawing and told it what the style is, essentially. That's how simple everything has gotten. So I thought, you know what? I'm gonna realize that dream I had years ago of doing exactly that. And I trained a LoRA. So I trained an LTX LoRA on my art style. Thing is, though, I thought, well, I don't have to draw everything by hand now. I could just use text prompts. And shit, I don't even need to come up with all the text prompts. I can have AI help me with that as well. Which led me to this. Now, I don't know if you've watched any cartoons and can recognize which character this is, but this is Mr. Bean in my art style. And when just saying that I wanted to make a cartoon character, this is what it gave me. That does not work, of course. And there were a whole host of other issues as well. But first, let's tackle the most obvious one, which is all my clips at first look like Mr. Bean, which is why I needed to have another character produced consistently. Now, for those of you who do not know anything about prompting, you can achieve this through anchoring your characters with a name, so to say. Choose any famous figure who looks whatever like your character, and that works as your anchor. I use Jason Statham because if you tell the AI to create Jason Statham in a caricature style with an oversized bald head, I kind of don't even need to tell the AI that he's bald because the AI has an idea of what Jason Statham looks like. So I'm not going to all of a sudden get an African-American male or anything. It understands that this is a male who's Caucasian and has a certain build. But when you anchor, even if you make up a name, I could call this Freddie Burmer or whatever. Doesn't matter. If you anchor it to a name, you get more consistent results. Now, I wouldn't use an actual person if I was doing photorealism, but since I'm just doing this style, no one's gonna recognize Jason Statham. Now, this was extremely effective. Problem is, though, it kind of defeated the main purpose of what I was trying to do, which was tell my original stories with my original voice. Sure, I did that, but with my original artwork. And the second I started generating videos in my art style, I lost some of that originality at the same time. Now, it still looked cool. It still had that aesthetic that I was going for, but it kind of didn't really work at the same time. I mean, it kind of did work and kind of did not work at the same time, to be honest. I was missing some of that personal feeling to it. So this is why I chose to overlap with some hand-drawn images as well and animating these. So these are all based off of my hand-drawn artwork, but then generated with Flux 2 Klein because I train the LoRA on that as well. Let's see if I can find those original drawings so that I get to prove my point to you here. Here we have him, the male character, the Jason Statham type. And here on the right, we have that female character in that same artwork. Anyway, this made it feel more personal in many ways. It made it feel more like I had actually been a part of creating it. Even though, I mean, I've trained the LoRA and all of that, it wasn't quite enough to just generate it in my art style. I needed to get more involved. Now, my original idea was to animate this stuff over rants that I've done. Like I walk with my dog and I talk about life, essentially. For example, struggles I had with dating on Tinder. And it was important for me to do it this exact way because I wanted it to be relatable. However, I say a lot of shit when I'm out walking my dog, and a lot of it doesn't really make sense. And I've been using a service called Riverside FM to tackle this exact issue. So what it allows you to do is transcript-based editing, which looks like this. I mean, it's great. It's great that there exists a free tool that lets you do this. However, as all of you probably know just as well as me, free tools can all of a sudden not become free, and you have to go in here every single time you want it. And if you click export, you're in a queue with other people who want to use this thing for free, so it's not really ideal. The other option I thought of was exporting my audio files from me walking my dog and ranting to YouTube, get a transcript from there, upload that shit into Claude AI. I use Claude because I think that is the best one and the most ethical of the bunch. But still, there's a lot of steps and there's a lot of hassle. So I had several issues I had to deal with. One, being original with my actual art style and not generating Mr. Bean. So actually doing some proper prompting. It's not enough to just train a LoRA on, 69 hand-drawn images. By the way, I added to those 69 hand-drawn images 17 more hand-drawn images, which were colored. So that wasn't enough to get completely original content every single time. Another issue was that many of the community-made workflows for Flux 2.3 would not work with my LoRA for whatever reason. So the only model I could use was the LoRA FP8 model and nothing else. Now that's a problem because that thing is so fucking slow on my PC when I'm running everything. So there were a whole host of different things I needed to figure out. For one thing, how to make it faster. And there's the simple stuff like launch commands, adding the fact that I have low VRAM and reserving 10 gigabytes of VRAM. This sped up ComfyUI like insane. Like the speed gains from this was just beyond belief. Another thing, installing Sage Attention. Again, I just used Claude to help me figure out which wheels I needed for my computer and then installing Sage Attention. I can share these scripts with you in the description down below. But there was so much more to figure out. Like, it wasn't a quick fix because, for one thing, I don't have the time to sit around generating videos all day neither. So that led me to essentially start creating my whole suite of tools, one of which is a prompt cycler. This allows me to paste in many prompts for many videos and just queue a whole big batch, and then it will iterate through one prompt at a time, generating that single video. Now that same functionality I created for loading images, so I can have a folder with numbered images and hook that thing into the image latent and queue the prompts. Now both of these have a reset counter button, so if you need to start from the beginning, you can do that. And also a repeat counter, because sometimes I want to use the same image for the first 5 prompts, for example. So I don't need to spend all day generating images. and instead like feed LTX a character like this for the first 5 prompts and then swap the character in the next 5 prompts, if you get where I'm going with this. Now that same functionality I did for loading audio. So instead of loading a single piece of 10-minute long audio, I'm able to load chunks of audio that are 10 or 20 seconds long, or even 5 seconds long. But I needed to create something that allowed me to split these audio pieces into smaller segments as well. So I have my audio splitter, so I could put in, for example, a 10-minute long audio, like this thing here, pop that thing into there, and say I want chunks that are just 20 seconds long, each of them. And I want them all saved as WAV files. And I could even specify to which folder this should be saved and load that exact folder here, and it will then load through one by one piece of audio, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, etc., one by one image, and one by one prompt. So I click the generate button once, and when I come back, I have a full video. Now, this is exactly what I wanted 3.5 years ago. I wanted to tell my personal stories with my hand-drawn characters in my art style, but not spend all the time just editing stuff, but rather spend my time actually drawing and speaking about life or whatever it is. That's what I wanted to spend my time on. Now, there was the issue of speed. So I'm lucky I have a Blackwell GPU, the 5000 series, so I can use FP4 on my system and have it look pretty great. And since I have a 5070, the time saved on using dev NVFP4 versus dev FP8 is very significant. But there are some very important caveats, because dev FP8 uses the distilled LoRa at only 0.5 strength, while NVFP4 has to have twice that, so it has to have 1.0 strength. The same applies to LoRas that you use with this. So, where my style LoRa, trained on my artwork, only needed 1.0 using dev FP8, this thing, it now needs 2.2 to even register. If I don't do that, then nothing happens here. Or that is, something happens, but it does not recognize my art style. However, I'm generating 20 seconds of video at 832 by 832 in 5 minutes. That is literally how fast this is, and that same task would take at least 30 minutes before I was able to get FP4 up and running. I'm guessing this has something to do with the VRAM constraints on my system. It might be totally different for you, but on my specific setup, for whatever reason, full FP8 model, just extremely slow. Or, I mean, compared to the quantized versions or the transformer-only versions, it is still fast compared to, I don't know, a year ago when I was trying WAN. But compared to how fast you can get LTX, it was slow, right? So now it is extremely fast, but for those of you who know LTX, you recognize that I've gotten rid of the second stage. I've gotten rid of the upsampler. For whatever reason, that thing just slows down my system like insane. And the payoff is not big enough for me to actually use that thing. The overall look and feel of everything doesn't match how long it takes. It works just fine if I'm not using my own custom LoRa, like I'm trying to do here. There's something about just adding that little piece of overhead that just tanks the whole thing. And anyway, like, I haven't been able to make my LoRa work with the Transformers only checkpoint by KJNodes, which is probably the fastest one, except for the NVFP4. And the distilled models have been clunky with this LoRa as well, because they have like this distilled LoRa baked into them and whatever. So yeah, it had to be run like this. Now, for every issue I solve, a new issue occurs. So, for example, Flux 2 Klein has a totally different interpretation of this orange color than LTX. So combining them and doing image to video is clunky, but there's always something. Now, I did say I didn't need YouTube nor Riverside FM anymore because I built my own nodes for doing transcript-based editing as well. So this first workflow here, I'll share this stuff as well, I guess. If you want more stuff like this, there's more on my Patreon. My philosophy is kind of, if I'm making a guide, then I put it out for free, and which, if not, then it's for my paying subscribers in there. What I was trying to say is this thing handles something very important. So I take, for example, one of my rants where I'm out walking my dog and talking about life, put it into these custom nodes, and I get a transcript of what I'm saying. This is using Whisper. For those of you who know some of the different models you can use for this. Great model. You can easily run it at home on any kind of PC, pretty much. And it outputs however large chunks I want. So, for example, I want to know what I'm saying for the first 20 seconds of the video. Because when I'm generating video, I'm generating 20 seconds at a time. So I can prompt in here, young man speaking, gesturing with his arms, and have it match that specific part of the video where I'm talking about something, a horrible feeling inside, I don't know, a fucking brain crumbling or something, right? That matches this exact portion before moving on to the next prompt, which matches this exact portion. You get where I'm going here? So I can easily create prompts that perfectly match what I'm saying in my rant. Now, I took this even a step further, which is to do transcript-based editing. Now, I haven't really played around with this, but when I do this, I get saved an output file, which has even more depth to it than this, which is every single word gets a number based on when it is said. And you would think that requires a ton of computing power, but it's actually really fast. So instead of just seeing the first 20 seconds in that text document, I say that on second 1, and I say horrible on second 2, and so on and so forth. And I can edit that text file and, for example, remove everywhere I'm saying and ah, or like, or but, or whatever. Put that in here and generate again with that piece of audio, and it should slice up this audio and remove those parts that are gone. So, in other words, transcript-based editing. But again, I haven't really played around with this thing. Now I'm gonna see if I can get this stuff out there to share with you guys. This is the most useful thing that I've created. This has all of these most important nodes, but I'm working on other stuff as well. Now I will be sharing my entire node pack, and in here we have a lot of different stuff, which I will eventually get to making guides for. Maybe some of this I will be removing, but here we have, for example, prompt relay. So I made a node inspired by KJ's prompt relay node that I'm aiming to get rid of the whole need for a custom LoRa in the first place. The idea is you feed it an image and it remembers a global prompt. Here it just says 121, but you say at which frames it's supposed to change the actions of something. So at 121, it does this. Then at 241, it changes to this. And then at 481, it does that. You get where I'm going? So yeah, that's the point of it. Inspired by KJ, the only difference between his node, or his, or their, or hers, excuse me, The only difference between mine and KJNodes is that here you have one single global prompt and then prompts that go in under that again. In mine, you just can paste a whole bunch of prompts going with the whole one-click philosophy, and it will iterate through each. So at the first generation, it will only do this one, and at the second one, it will move on to this, and so on and so forth, without you having to click generate every single time. So yeah, that's the tools I've been developing for this. Now, why? Why go through all this fucking trouble for this shit? I guess I had a dream of doing this back then, and I wanted to stay true to that dream. I think it's nice to sit around doodling. I think it's a good excuse to do that more often. And I think in this day and age of AI, when everyone can make something that looks perfect in 5 seconds, making something that does not look perfect is more important. Because this is a part of my identity, this is a part of my soul, the fact that it does not look perfect. And you can easily see like the TV shows that influenced me as a kid based off of how my drawings look. I watched a lot of Cartoon Network when I was a kid. And personally, I see that Ed, Edd and Eddy, Cow and Chicken, and all of that influence in my art style. And you kind of don't get that when you just click generate. When you just put in a text prompt and click generate. Even if you've trained it on your own artwork, it has a tendency to look too perfect. And another argument for using your own artwork to influence the stuff you're generating is you get a higher fidelity if you're doing 2D. That's something I've learned from this project. So if I'm just doing text to video, it blurs more, like lines blur together more than if I feed it a starting image. It's weird, but that's how it works. It's just as effective as turning up the resolution, actually. It sounds crazy, but it's true. I've seen this especially, like you see that already here, right? This is a final video. You see how much clearer each line looks when I input an image than if I don't. It's like night and day. See that? It's totally different. But then again, you don't always have the time to sit around doodling all day, which you don't actually need to in this case. Now, I don't know if I'll be able to share all of these workflows. Like, I need to look through them a little bit more, and I would like to fix them up a little bit. But here, if I use my style, here's the LoRA that I trained for Flux 2 Klein 4B to be exact. That thing can make all kinds of changes to this character while keeping it perfectly consistent. And since I'm doing 2D, if it all of a sudden introduces, I don't know, 4 eyes or whatever, fixing it takes a couple of seconds. So yeah, that's me realizing one of my not childhood dreams. I'm a 36-year-old man, and this was 3.5 years ago before my daughter was born that I dreamt of this. So one of my adult dreams. That sounded very kinky. One of my adult dreams. No. Yeah, but yeah, I hope you guys found this useful. As I said, I'll try to leave a couple of workflows in the link down below. At least this one for using FP4, because I think this is extremely useful. That someone just plops in the numbers you need for these LoRas. The whole installation for Sage Attention is quite a bit involved, but I'll see if I can share the script I used to at least figure out what I needed to install it. And yeah, otherwise, I share all kinds of stuff on my Patreon all the time. Most of it is locked behind a paywall, but if there's a tutorial out like this one, I tend to try to share as much as possible of that stuff. I don't believe in like using YouTube as a place to advertise paid stuff on a different site. Like, that's not what I'm all about. But if there's not a guide for something, and I briefly mentioned it in a guide, then it's most likely locked behind a paywall on my Patreon and will be made free eventually when I've, because I don't want to put out stuff like this. But if you're really eager to try it, I mean, most likely you're gonna need some help anyway with figuring everything out. So yeah, that's at least what I'm thinking right now. So yeah, I hope you guys found it useful. And of course, my notes, they'll be out there. Yeah. Okay, I'll catch you guys on the next one. See ya.